this is Algebra 1, Lesson 62. We're going to be talking about square roots, higher order roots, and evaluating using plus or minus signs. We're starting on page 252. Every positive number has one positive and one negative square root. For example, if we take the square root of 16, the answer could be 4, or it could be negative 4, because 4 times 4 equals 16, and negative 4 equals 16. This year in your book, when they ask, what is the square root of 16? They want the positive root. If they want the negative root, they'll say the negative square root of 16 to get negative 4. Okay? The number under the square root is called the radicand. Radicand. It's the number under the square root sign. So the square root of x squared always equals x, right? So if we have the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, this is the square root of 2 times, squared. This is the square root of 2 squared. The answer is 2. The square root of a times the square root of a is a. The square root of 2.42 times the square root of 2.42 is 2.42. The square root of x minus 1 times the square root of x minus 1 is x minus 1. Okay, here's our first example. Use a calculator to determine to 5 decimal places the square root of 18. On their calculator, they pushed 18 square root. On my calculator, I actually have to push the square root sign first and then the 18 and then enter to get the answer. So you need to play with your calculator to see how you do it. Either you're going to hit the square root button. Anytime you see something in a square like this, that means the button. So either you're going to hit square root and then 18, or you're going to hit 18 and then square root. So you just need to play with your calculator and see which way it works for you. Okay, so for my calculator, I hit second function and then square root and then 18, and then I hit enter. And the answer you get is 4.24264. Isn't that pretty? Okay, use a calculator to determine the 2 square roots of 10 to the 6 decimal places. So on my calculator, I hit second function, square root sign 10. You might hit 10 square root sign. It's going to give you the positive square root, which is 3.162278. It asked for the 2 square roots, so the other square root is going to be negative 3.162278. Okay, so that would be your answer. Your next one is, without using a calculator, write the squares of the natural numbers 1 through 20. Probably you can do 1 through 12 fairly easily. It's good to memorize through 15. So you should be able to do this fairly easy. At least most of the way. Oop. That's right. $16 squared is 256, and then 289, 324, 361, and 400. Okay? Their whole point of making you do that is to say you should memorize through 15 if you haven't already. Without using a calculator, determine between what 2 consecutive integers the square root of 10 lies. So this is really a logic problem. We know that this 3 squared is 9, and 4 squared is 16. So it's going to be somewhere between 3 and 4. And if we think it through, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. So it's going to be closer to 3 than it is to 9, because 10 is a lot closer to 9 than it is to 16. So it's going to be between 3 and 4, it's going to be closer to 3. And actually, we actually already figured this out once. It's approximately 3.16. Okay? Now we're going to talk about higher order roots. This, with a 3 on top, so the little square root thingy, but with a 3 here, is a cubed root. The cubed root of 8 is 2, because 2 cubed equals 8, right? Every real number only has one cube root, which is either positive or negative. So the cubed root of 8 is 2. The cubed root of negative 8 is negative 2. Right? If you have a cubed root of x and you cube it, you multiply it times itself 3 times, you get x. This little guy, the square root sign with a 4th, is a 4th root. Just like square roots, every 4th root has 2 roots, one positive and one negative. If your book doesn't state otherwise, it wants the positive root. And a 4th root raised to the 4th power equals x. So a 4th root multiplied times itself 4 times is x. Okay, so here's our example. Without using a calculator, determine the following. Note that all answers are integers. So we've already done the cubed root of 8. The cubed root of 8 is 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. How about the 4th root of 81? Well, we know that 9 times 9 is 41, so that would be the squared root. And we know that 3 times 3 is 9, so 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is going to equal 81. So the 4th root of 81 is 3. This would also be true of negative 3, right? Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 is going to be 81. But since they did not put a negative out front, we only want the positive answer. Now we want the cubed root of negative 27. Negative 27 is 9 times 3, and 9 is 3 times 3. So the cubed root is going to be negative 3. Okay, now we're going to talk about evaluating using plus or minus signs. The equation x squared equals 4 has 2 solutions, because 2 squared equals 4 and negative 2 squared equals 4. So if we solve this for x, the answer is going to be x equals 2 or x equals negative 2. Negative 2. Or we can write that x equals plus or minus 2. So you can write x equals 2 or x equals negative 2, or you can just write x equals plus or minus 2. Okay? Up till now, we've been working a lot with linear equations where all the variables have the same x. So these guys that we've been graphing, right? X is only to the first power. There are no x squared in here. So now we're going to start talking about quadratic equations where the highest power of the variable is 2. So it'll look something like this. X squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. This is a quadratic equation. Quadratic equations, when you start solving for x, turn out quite messy often. And a lot of times the answer is going to look like this. So x equals 7 plus or minus 2. And now there are 2 answers for x. If x equals 7 plus 2, the answer is 9. If the answer is 7 minus 2, then the answer is going to be 5. And we're going to write these with commas, like this. That would be your answer for this. Okay? Okay, let's do this example. Evaluate -2 squared plus -3 squared plus or minus the square root of 4. 2 squared is 4, and then minus, or negative that, so this is -4, plus the square of -3, so that would be 9, plus or minus the square root of 4, which is 2. 9 minus 4 is 5, so this is 5 plus or minus 2. Okay, our two answers are going to be 5 plus 2, which equals 7, or 5 minus 2, which equals 3. So our answers are going to be 7 and 3. Okay? And that's it for that chapter. Try your practice problems and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you!